everyone, welcome back to Katie's Favorite Recipes. Today I've got two amazing fall dump cakes that I think you all are going to love. The first one is caramel apple dump cake and the second one is pumpkin pie dump cake. These are both super easy, they don't require a whole lot of ingredients, and they are delicious. So let's go ahead and get started with the caramel apple dump cake now. Here's the ingredients that I'm using for this. As you can see, it's really not a whole lot of stuff. And then I'm just going to take my 9x13 dish and I just want to lightly spray it to make sure that nothing sticks and it makes for easy cleanup. And then once I do that, I'm going to take my 2 cans of apple pie filling. These are each 21-ounce cans, and I'm just going to pour these right in the bottom of this dish. And I want to make sure that I get all of the glaze and everything out of this can, so I'm going to take something and scrape it out of there. But we're just going to dump these right into our dish, and then we're going to take a spoon, or you can use a spatula or whatever you have, and just evenly press these apples out into the bottom of this. We want to make sure that the bottom is completely covered and you can't see any of the dish under it. And once we finish doing that, we're going to add our Carmel Bits. These are basically the caramel squares, but they're unwrapped. These melt down really nicely, but when it does cool off, it does set up a little bit. But they're not into these shapes. They're just melted pieces in there. So if you want to eat it kind of cold and you don't want it to be tacky any at all, you can use sauce. But I'm just using half of this bag, and I'm going to evenly sprinkle this across my dump cake. And once we do that, we're going to take our cake mixture. I'm doing the yellow cake mix, and we are just going to sprinkle this over top of the cake. So we're just going to evenly make sure everything is covered. We want to make sure that all the corners are covered. We just want to sprinkle this all the way across. And we're going to use the whole bag of this yellow cake mix. We're not going to stir this up. It's just going to set right on the top of this. And once we finish doing that, if you do see some places that you need to smooth it out just a little bit, you can really easily take anything and just smooth it out to make it a little even, because some of my spots were a little high where some of them were a little low. But once we finish that and we get it the way we want it to look, we are going to take our 2 sticks of butter, and I'm just using salted real butter, and we're going to melt these in the microwave, and then we are just going to pour it over top of this cake. Like I said, we're not going to mix it, we're just going to pour it and drizzle it over top of this evenly. And once you finish doing that, you can pick the cake up and kind of gently tilt it back and forth to let it slide over the top and coat everything. And then once we finish that, this is ready to go in the oven. So we're going to bake it in the oven at 350. Our oven's been preheating, so it's ready. And we are going to let it cook until the top is golden brown. Depending on your oven, that could take between 30 to 45 minutes. You just want to make sure that it's got a good golden top to it and everything looks like it's been cooked through. And then once that's done, this is ready to serve. This would be really good served with some ice cream over it or something like that. I feel like it's best served warm, but if you want to eat it cold, that's fine too. But here it is, and it is delicious. I think you all are going to love it. We're going to move on to our pumpkin pie dump cake. This recipe was also really easy to throw together, and it was super good. We loved it. So for this, I'm going to start off by putting my pumpkin into a mixing bowl. We're just going to dump the can right in there. And once we finish doing that, and we scrape the can out to make sure, because this does stick to the inside of the can. But once we scrape that out and get it all dumped in there, we're going to do our evaporated milk. It does say to shake well on the top of this, so I did shake it before I opened it. But we're just going to pour this right in there with the pumpkin, and then we're going to also crack 3 eggs and put those in there. And once we do that, we're going to add in a cup of sugar, and then we're going to do a teaspoon of cinnamon. So this is another minimal ingredient recipe that is delicious. Once we finish dumping all that in there, you can take whatever you want and mix this up, whether it be by hand, whether you use a stand mixer, a hand mixer, whatever you want to do. Just whisk this up and make sure that everything is mixed in and smooth. It shouldn't have any lumps or anything like that. So I'm using my stand mixer, and I started it on low, and then I turned it up to medium and mixed it for a minute, and then I stopped it, scraped the sides, and finished mixing it. But this mixes up really easily. You could do it by hand if you wanted to. So once we finish mixing that up and making sure that all the lumps are out of it, we're just going to pour this directly into our casserole dish. And I did spray my dish so it would be easy cleanup. I'm just using regular nonstick spray, and I've lightly coated the bottom and the sides of this, and I'm just going to pour my pumpkin mixture right into that casserole dish. And once we do that, we want to make sure that we get everything out of there. We're going to scrape that bowl and pour it all in there. And then we are going to take our cake mix, which is the spice cake mix, and we're just going to evenly sprinkle this over the top. Make sure that everything is covered, all the edges, all the sides, but do not mix this up. And once we do that, we can take a spatula like we did in the previous recipe and just kind of smooth everything out. Just do not mix it. It's just going to set right on the top of this. Make sure all the edges are covered and you can't see any of the pumpkin. Once we finish doing that, we are going to go ahead and take 2 sticks of butter, and we're going to melt that down and slowly drizzle this over the top of this cake. Don't mix it, and it is going to fall through and sink some, but that is okay. This is still going to cook. And we're going to take this and put it in our preheated oven at 350. We want to cook this for about 50 to 60 minutes until everything looks dry and cooked on the top. Let this chill in the refrigerator until it's cold, and this is ready to serve. This was so good, and I hope you all enjoy these super simple dump cakes.